Yes, my people. Once again, it's Rockstar 860 TV. And in this episode, we just had to do some recap of day three of Cartel and his co-accused Court of Appeals hearing to see if there'll be a retrial of his case or a full acquittal and they will be released. Know what I mean? So, me did do a day three um video yesterday where the big stories for the day was Cartel's health, Kira Jones talking about his lack of intimacy and him losing his prime years being behind bars for 13 years falsely off a miscarriage of justice with the jury in the first case. So he's just talking about how he feels going to jail as a young man, 27 years old, 25 years old. I know he's a big grown man, 40 years old. And now a picnic look like him lose out for all those years when he could have been trying to have a family or even having kids. So he missed out on all of that. You know what I mean? So jail and prison is not a bed of roses. People might laugh, ha ha ha, do your time, you did the crime, but they're innocent right now. The Privy Council threw out that bogus um, conviction from 10 years ago, 13 years ago. Know what I mean? So people can always talk when they're not in the situation. But when they're in the situation, I wonder how they will feel. What will they do? Know what I mean? These men are fighting for their lives. These men are fighting for their freedoms. These men is going through a lot mentally, physically. You know what I mean? Behind the bars of hell, behind the walls of a dungeon, because it's not even a prison cell. You know what I mean? Let's continue. And what's sad is everybody knows Sean Storm. Everybody knows Vybz Kartel. But who is Andre St. John's? Who is Kira Jones? These men have families too. You try to find these men pictures on internet to put a part of the story, and that's all we find. A little face shot. Him back a cartel handcuff. That's it. You know what I mean? So this man has been going through a lot. We're gonna read up on him story. Give him like a highlight. Cause it's like he's a lost soul in this case. Alright. Kira Jones, an accused in the Vybz Kartel case, laments lack of intimacy. Kira Jones, one of the accused in the Vybz Kartel case, has told the court that he has been deprived of the opportunity of intimacy and to create a family. That's sad. I mean, even me have picnic. I have picnic young. Younger than when him gone to jail. Me have picnic already. You know what I mean? So, Jones, who has been in custody since 2011, also disclosed that he has racked up a 70 million debt. Excuse me. Jones, who has been in custody since 2011, also disclosed that he has racked up a $70 million debt in trying to clear his name. 70 million. This man is not an entertainer. This man is not a sports athlete. This man is not into business. I mean, this was a young man gone to jail, prison. Jones, along with Adidja Vybz Kartel Palmer, Andre St. John, and Sean Campbell, are trying to convince the Court of Appeal not to rule that they should be retried for the 2011 murder of Clive Williams. In March, the UK-based Privy Council, Jamaica's final court, threw out their convictions and sent the case back to the Court of Appeals to determine whether there should be a retrial. That's where we are right now. And this hearing started on Monday. You know what I mean? But yesterday, attorney at law Iqbal Shavira, I can't pronounce he or she name, while making oral arguments on behalf of Jones, asked the court to assess the ordeal faced by his client, who went into custody at age 27. He pointed to Jones' affidavit in which the accused man said he is now 40 and the continued criminal process has deprived him of creating a family. He was unable to enjoy a protected right, Shavira added. Justice Marva Bishop McDonald, who is leading a panel of judges comprising Justices David Fraser and Paulette Williams, inquired about conjugal visits and was told that Jones has not been afforded the privilege. So this man been in jail, prison, 27 years, and Jamaica has conjugal visits, it seems, and he's not privileged to that right. What is the system doing? Why are they depriving him of a natural right to enjoy sexual pleasure from a female? Why are they stopping him? If it's okay, even the judge asked about it, so it must be a thing. You know what I mean? Shavira also asks that the financial challenges faced by Jones be taken into account when weighing the decision for retrial. Jones, he shared, disclosed in his affidavit that he had to take out loans to pay for his legal fee when he was appealing the conviction before the Court of Appeal. He said those loans have not been repaid. If it wasn't for the mercy of God and the kind help of one of the appellants, I would not have been able to have my appeal heard before the Privy Council, the lawyer read further. Turning to the prosecution's case against Jones, Shavira submitted that there was no technical or forensic evidence against his client, placing him at the crime scene. He also argued that there were inconsistencies in the evidence against Jones from the main eyewitness in the case. The lawyer asked that the prosecution not be allowed a second opportunity to present fresh evidence against Jones in hopes of strengthening its case, as that would be unfair. Know what I mean? So here what the man said, the lawyer. Jones, them not even have nothing against him. Them not no forensic. Them not have him at the scene, on the scene, near the scene, nowhere. But them have him upon murder charges 13 years later, after he was falsely convicted by a bribed and tainted jury allowed to continue by the DPP of Jamaica and the judge in the case. I mean, at the time, Judge Campbell, so to say. Is that fair, people? When you read into these things, these men are in prison with no evidence against them, really, in reality. So this man have to pay $70 million. Him take out loans. Him borrow money. Him not make no money. And now you have to pay back money that he borrowed. $70 million for the first case. We don't know how much he paid for Privy because he's just talking about the first case. And we do know, we know that Kartel has been ordered to be repaid a sum of money, 125 million Jamaican dollars. That's equivalent to 650,000 English pounds. So ordered by the King of England, Sir King Charles himself. Know what I mean? So we see everything coming out now. Money is talking about. Health is talking about. Languishing behind the prison bars is talking about. And people is talking about the defense never made a strong case. All week we've been reading and we have been hearing. It's minimal things that hasn't been accepted by the judge for the defense. But almost every objection that the state, the prosecution, the DPP objected was thrown down. I mean, I say every one of them. I say almost every one of them. Important points at that. I mean, so we hope say the judges are listening to the case, hearing the facts, considering this, considering that, considering everything. Because everything is at play. Health, finances, emotional torture. These things are there. And me not say murder is okay or murder is right. But you have to do the thing the right way. Justice is by the book. Justice is a book. When you read the book of justice, it's one way. Fair. There's no in between in justice. Justice is just fair. And that's all Cartel has ever asked for, a fair opportunity, a fair chance of proving his innocence. And he wasn't granted that. And we see that now. As I like to do, the first article that I just read, that was from the Star, Jamaica Star. It has no writer because they didn't put a name. Know what I mean? So I don't know who. But this next article, I'll be reading from the Observer. It's from Kelsey Thomas, and this is talking about John Clark speaking on the publicity aspect of the case and if there should be a retrial. You know what I mean? So let's hear what John Clark had to say on this issue. Defense lawyer John Clark on Wednesday told the Court of Appeal that none of the common law safeguards were deployed to ensure a new trial would not be affected by the publicity surrounding the question of the 2014 conviction by the Privy Council. Clark was making his closing submissions in the retrial hearing for Vybz Kartel, Sean Storm, Kara Jones, and Andre St. John, who were charged. We already know what them charged for. We're not go back through that. We now go back the reason why they had the Privy Council send it here, and we know all of this. You know what I mean? But noting that the damaging effect of the post-trial coverage, Clark argued that the appellants should not be condemned to undergo the ordeal of a retrial because of the state's failure to adhere to the Interception of Communications Act. Describing his argument as a beautiful submission, Justice Marva McDonald Bishop said, "You are saying that the court should have stepped in from day one and deployed its resources? Now we're learning." Clark also employed a Humpty Dumpty metaphor to argue that the misconduct of the jury should be reason enough not to order a retrial. Making his argument, Clark said, "The poisoning of the jury makes the whole case fall apart." Commending Clark for a strong closing argument on the point of publicity, McDonough Bishop said, "Everything you have placed before us will be considered. Thank you for that enlightening submission." On Thursday, which is today, the court will hear arguments from the Crown supporting a retrial against the accused. And this article was done by Kelsey Thomas for the Observer. So we see John Clark makes some vital points to the judge about the coverage of the case, saying that if they had employed methods from the start, these things wouldn't be going on right now. That we'd be worrying about a SIRP, a on-the-spot news, a young police channel. Those type of people just spew and spew bare false narratives, lies, innuendos, and dangerous information to the public about this case and other cases that jeopardizes fair trial right for the defendants. Know what I mean? So for all those who say Sir P didn't do anything, those people don't do nothing. They do a lot. Regular people saying free Vybz Kartel is just that, free Vybz Kartel. Who did we stop? Who did we arm? Who did we try to manipulate?
One of the doctors, Dr. Karen Phillips, and that medical report is dated June 3rd, he said 2024. Of course, the importance of that is to show that the medical conditions he's speaking about are still at this point in time affecting Cartel. It's not something that happened in the past and that perhaps he's recovered from. So he spoke about the issue of the Graves' disease. He spoke about his heart condition, saying that since last year, Cartel has lost 50% of his heart function. He also spoke about mental issues, speaking here now about a separate medical report on his mental health, which a Dr. Walcott had done, showing that he's been suffering from the stresses of this ordeal, that he's been exhibiting symptoms of anxiety. And Mr. Buchanan also said that he was suffering from, I'm using his words here, suffering from a mental weakness brought on by the ordeal. And the point he's making with all of this is that Cartel can't go through another trial. In fact, he said as much. He said the medical opinion is that he would not be able to sustain a second trial. He spoke about his financial issues as well, saying that, he spent so much over the years on this trial, and that again it would be a tremendous burden and ordeal for him to have to go through a second trial in circumstances where he was not at fault. Stick a pin here. This is referring, of course, to the fact that the convictions were quashed because the Privy Council said the trial judge, that's the judge who presided over the trial, made an error in allowing the so-called tainted juror to continue on the jury. He was tainted. He's referred to that because he tried to bribe other people on the jury to have them vote not guilty in the matter. It was reported to the judge, and the judge decided to allow the trial to continue. The Privy Council said that was basically a fatal mistake, and that because of that, the convictions were quashed. So back to Mr. Buchanan. So Mr. Buchanan is saying that, hey, none of this was Cartel's fault, and he is now having all these health issues, so it would not be in the interest of justice for him to be forced to undergo a second trial. Interestingly, he was citing from what we call authorities, meaning cases in which the courts have looked at similar, have said, made determinations, made rulings. And one of the cases he was citing said that a person should not be made to suffer this kind of ordeal, a retrial, a second